Hey, what's going on, guys? Your everyday options trader back with yet another video today. You can see I'm here yet again in TradingView. Now we had a pretty interesting day in the market here. Let me pull up SPY real quick. Today is, of course, July 11th, 2022. It's currently about 11 p.m. So we are going through this at that point. If you want a date reference, if you're watching this a little bit in the future. But anyways, back to it. So you can see here I have my strategy up, and if you want reference on that, go back to the original video I have where I go in a little more in detail, but I just wanted to talk about this a little bit. So today was a little bit weird, right? So we started off the morning here on this 8:30 candle, and you can see it was a big down one. Kind of opened up a little bit heavy to the downside. And we really didn't move a whole bunch in the intraday, as you can see here, but you did have that trend swap going into here. Now, this wouldn't have been an entry for me, just simply because this is not touching, not to say that the market will not decrease. I'll get into that in a short moment. So, moving on from that, you can see it did stay pretty steady. Now, we'll look at the triple Q here. Very similar scenario, though it did have a little more price movement, but you can see we're down about 2% here. This one only being 1%. Scrolling through my watch list here, you can see it's a lot more red today, of course. But I do have a couple inverse SPX. Now here's what I wanted to get into. I've been watching these a little bit, your travel and hospitality stocks. Now, if you look at the actual chart here, you can see this one in particular being Hilton. It does actually kind of bottom out here around this 108, 109 area. Um, so it looks like this one actually we might see a little bit of an escape here, just especially with the trend, higher low here. So it seems to be reversing direction. We'll see how that looks. If not, it could very well continue to decrease. You do see we did have a fresh trend change this morning. But of course, the day before as well. Now, other things. Looking at outperformers today, you got Valero here. They seem to have actually had a pretty good day. I'm kind of watching them to see if they'll continue that upward pace, because it does seem like they did more or less bottom out around this 99 area. Um, Now, as far as what's seemingly going down, so what I've been watching here, you got Johnson and Johnson, of course. Healthcare does seem to be trading towards the downside here. We seem to have peaked off, couldn't really get past this 179, 180 area up in here. Um, Now we have that strong support here to that 175 area. So definitely could see some downward movement, maybe with earnings coming up. We'll see with that as well. Other things I'm watching, like your clothing, your supply stores, if you will, your non-durables is what they call it in here. These seem to be going in a downward trajectory as well. I'll put out a prediction, and again, none of this is financial advice. Take everything I say with a grain of salt. But I think more or less we should see a downward pace. Obviously, a perfect scenario at this point, especially for me being very put heavy, would be to basically have these misses on earnings, or a negative sentiment on earnings, if you will. And of course, I think very well we will see a rise in inflation on Wednesday, and that'll trigger our next downward cycle all the way through the Fed meeting, which should hopefully put us in a good downward swing for the next probably about 3 to 4 weeks. So that would be the ideal scenario. The other scenario is inflation actually falls due to the report on Wednesday, and we might have a little bit of a market correction there as well. Now, a couple other things. I will go through some trades that I took that I ultimately lost and kind of why in relation to the strategy I'm going through. So first things first, let's go over here and we will look at Ford. So I did switch positions here on Ford. Uh, if you remember from my previous video, I had a call on them, but it does seem like the trend has reversed here and we have a fresh downtrend here as well. So what really went wrong was so I bought in right in here, right? I easily could have sold it here for 40%, 30%, but I did not set my take profit. That's why it's very important to always, 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 always set your take profit overnight. Very important. Um, in this case, I just completely forgot. So now we're going to hopefully ride it to the downside here. I'm hoping we break this little, 10.5 barrier basically, uh, but we'll see. There's a lot of stocks on the teetering edge right now. You can see Coke here, seemingly flat for the time being. We've kind of retraced this gain. Neo, pretty interesting today. All these Chinese stocks kind of took a hit, but they did bleed off pretty well. And this is where the strategy does kind of falter a little bit. So of course you had those two green days here. Um, and then you had a big fat red, but this is still green. So technically you would have still held. My thing is at any point, if it crosses over and looks like it's changing trend, yeah, it's probably time to get out, jump in a downtrend. One thing I'm kind of experimenting with as I get better with this, you can see it as it's happening, decrease. So let's say, you get to this point, this candle closes well below and it's open here. Well, this does act as a level of resistance. So you could always play on, it's going to continue to go down. The signs are there. We're not drastically oversold at this point, though it was pretty close. It was about 10 on the Harsey here, so about halfway to oversold. So I did end up going short here, and I do have a nice position working, so hopefully we do carry that through tomorrow. Now, Pepsi, we do have that earnings tomorrow. I am going short on the earnings on the fingers crossed bet that hopefully they do miss or have some bad guidance, something to make it very bearish, and it does work out that way. Now, another thing I did want to get into in the previous video, I said I did update my time frame to 2 hours, but I can tell you for a fact right now that's probably not the best time frame for this. I think the best strategy for swing trades in this is simply to use the 1 hour or less time frame and just simply buy later in the day because your odds are exponentially better for you to carry, especially if you're trading something like the SPY or the triple Q, IWM, Apple, Amazon, stocks like that have a really nice flow to them. You can get a nice pattern in there. But more or less, this is kind of what I look at on a daily basis. Um, See, we did have a pretty drastic sell this morning, so the indicator is lagging behind, but hopefully this is going to indicate that we should have a continued downward trend this week. I'm seeing a bigger red bias in here now, so lesser of a green bias. I really had to search for these, and of course, if it's not, treasury yields or inverse leveraged indexes, it's generally underperforming these days. And this is just stuff that I'm watching for new trends. This is not stuff that's already in a trend, which most of this is. Though the weird part is I am seeing increases in these consumer non-durables or your food companies. I said that a little bit earlier in the video.
they seem to be taking off a little bit, which might show signs of a little bit of a recovery and especially maybe some positive earnings in that light. And of course, I'm not a financial advisor. Take what I say with a grain of salt, but I just like to do this analysis as well. Another interesting stock I've been watching here is Boeing. Seem to be in a pretty wonky area here. Just like every day there's a new trend. But what I really think's happening now is, at least or Friday and today, Monday, that the market's more or less been searching for a direction, and that's what you see here. So hopefully we'll have a not so positive earnings kickoff. Because really what you want to happen here is you just want us to go ahead and, dip another 10% or so, start the recovery. Because that's going to be the cleanest, easiest to do. I have been dabbling with the strategy a little bit on Forex. I'll go into that a little bit. You can see I have a position open here, short position on GBP NZD. I did jump into this a little bit early trying to test out. Got my stop loss here at this swing high, a little bit above because I do like even numbers. Um, but I am comfortable with the $2 loss. So right now we're sitting at negative 20 cents. I'm about 2 hours into the trade. Not bad. Again, this is a delayed reaction strategy. I was green down here, uh, but I do think we'll continue that downward pace. I also have another short uh, performing a little bit worse. This is CAD JPY, but you've got a big fluctuation in here. So I'm hoping wake up in the morning, it'll be a little bit of a downtrend. Might not hit this. It'd be nice if we do. But this is kind of the recent swing low, if you will. So I try and set them there. Plus, I like my even numbers. So I will update in tomorrow's video. But other than that, if you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll try and answer those as quickly as possible. I'm going to make another video here detailing a little more into the strategy, more of the adjustments I've made, and hopefully a little bit better quality because I realize the video does come through a little bit hazy when it's screen recording for some reason. So I'm going to try and fix that for you guys. I will also have an update later in the week for how this works for day trading as well. I'm still waiting for my money to settle in my day trade account because, as you know, if you're running a small account, you need a cash-based account to do unlimited day trades. So a little bit wonkier. I'll go into more details in that in another video explaining exactly how a cash-based account works because I know there's not a lot of stuff out there for you guys. Um, but again, if there's anything you'd like me to make a video about, go a little more in depth and detail, throw it in the comments below. I'll be sure to answer that. Appreciate you guys stopping by, and I will see you in the next video.